Hello, I'm Matt Frawley and this is Mathey Talks, and today I'm very excited to have Harriet Kiwanuka here with me. She is a senior and an RCA in Mathey College, so thank you very much for being here with us this morning.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us about how you got to Princeton.
Okay, so I'm from Norton, Massachusetts. I'm one of five. My family, I have 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and my parents are both from Uganda. And so,
Okay. 1 of 5. Are you the oldest,
Oh.
youngest, in the middle?
I'm the youngest.
Youngest?
I'm the baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yep, I'm the baby. Yeah. So my parents actually were born in Uganda. They came here about 20 years ago, and my oldest brother was born there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then all my other siblings were born in America. But yeah, so growing up, we were instilled with a certain set of values, to work hard, to never really complain about where you come from or the cards you were dealt, because everyone has a different story. And yeah, so that's where I come from.
Now, before you go on,
Mm-hmm.
the youngest, you weren't spoiled at all being the youngest?
No, I wasn't really spoiled. I think it was it's different because I wasn't spoiled, I was protected a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot was expected from me because all of my siblings were really successful or really great at what they did,
Mm-hmm.
and excelled in their different aspects in life. So when it came to me, it was my parents were expecting a lot, so I needed to deliver. And all my siblings are I look up to them like role models, so they protected me and would always cheer me on and stuff.
So pretty close to the siblings?
Yeah,
close.
really close. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Were you closer with any particular brother or sister, or?
We're all pretty we're similar closeness. But my older sister is only a year older than me, so we would always when everyone else went to college, we were together at home. So I'm closer with her just because we were always together in school and stuff.
So was that senior year in high school tough? I mean, they're all out of the house.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. It was
Right.
weird. It was living the single child life, so it was really weird. But I got used to it, and it was only a year, so it wasn't really that bad.
So before we talk about transitioning to Princeton University, in previous conversations you talked about how your parents really instilled certain values in you, and which you've mentioned here, and also standing up for what you believe is right. Are there examples where that came into play prior to coming to Princeton?
Prior to coming,
Yeah.
standing up for.
Just standing up and just some of the virtues that they taught you and how that has inspired you and helped you prior to coming to Princeton.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's so many examples, I guess. Well, my parents just worked really hard as we were growing up. They weren't always, they were always present in my life, but they weren't always there for different sporting events and stuff. But they would always come to practices and come to the big games and stuff like that. But then I realized that they were always working. And they would always just work, but not really complain about their hard hours. Or my dad would work. At one point, he's been working 2 jobs, and he'd just be oh, it's what needs to be done. And my mom would just, when I was little, she'd just work the graveyard shifts at the nursery home because she wanted to be there for us during the day, and then she'd go to work at night and then wake up, and then the next morning she'd be there. So I always saw the hard work and the ethic that went into kind of going towards your goals and kind of making your life the life you want it to be. So those were really instilled in me at a young age and has kind of carried through my life. So I feel in high school, a reason why I was able to do balance all the activities that I did and kind of not really complain and be able to go back home and do my chores and do my homework and go to school and be a part of all the different activities was because I knew I wanted to go to a good school, and I knew I wanted to do all those other things. And I had a lot of different passions, so I knew that I was able to do them. I just needed to balance and work hard, and all of my goals were achievable if I was able to work hard and not complain.
Now, tell me about your activities. You said sports because you games. Volleyball, is that correct? Or,
no, I did basketball.
Basketball, sorry.
Yeah, I did basketball and soccer.
Soccer.
I've played soccer ever since I was really, really little. So that's my first true love. But yeah, I played basketball. I did track for 2 years as well.
Okay.
But
any other activities besides the sports?
yeah, I was involved in the National Honor Society. different health groups in my school. I was involved in the foreign language honor society, the art honor society, and stuff like that. Yeah, so.
In your community in Massachusetts, was it fairly diverse, or was there a Ugandan community there? That's why your parents settled there, or how did they end up in Massachusetts?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. There's not actually a Ugandan community in Norwood. Norwood's not really that diverse, in that most of the people around me, most of my friends, were white, and we were one of the few black families in Norwood, which was, I got used to it because I was born there. I was born down the street from my house, and I just lived around there. So yeah, my parents picked Norwood actually because they originally moved to Virginia because that's where a bunch of my family was and settled. But then they looked up north, and then they found a suburb with a good school system, so they just decided to move there.
And how your experience, because it wasn't that diverse, and you said you got used to it, but did you face any prejudice or any obstacles growing up?
Yeah, I think I did. I think a lot growing up. I feel in elementary school there wasn't really, because nobody really thought about race that much in elementary school. But then when going into middle school and high school, my friends, because there was a population that was black in Norwood, so most of my friends, just because all the activities we did, and on my basketball team and my soccer team, most of my friends were just white, and all of my classes, and I would take APs and stuff, all of them were just white. So most of my friends growing up were white, and I feel like a lot of the people who weren't white or who were black would kind of look at me differently just because I wasn't acting black, or I didn't have all the black friends and stuff like that. Which is kind of, I got over it pretty quickly, just because my family actually helped me a lot with that, because we all, I never felt like I needed to look for a black community in Norwood because my family's so close, and I had such a big family that I never felt like my culture was disjointed from who I was, because my family always reminded me of who I was when it came to my skin color or my culture.
So tell us about the transition to Princeton University.
Yeah, so it was really, I feel like the transition was really great, just because of my RCA. She was really awesome and making us feel like we had a place away from home. So that was really great. And my Z group was really awesome. My roommate, so we had a roommate conflict the first day because we didn't know where each person was going to live in the quads. So me and my roommate that were sharing the double in the quad got really close. Cricket, she's actually an RCA, and Maddie. So yeah, we've been friends ever since freshman year, but she really helped me in the transition, and one of my really good friends across the hall from us really helped me as well. So my Z group was really close. My RCA was awesome, and then I felt like I could go venture out and see different parts on campus just because I had a good foundation.
Well, tell me more about your interaction with your RCA. Your RCA was Angela Groves, who was amazing.
Yeah.
She's African American. How was that beneficial? Did she help you out transitioning as a black student to Princeton University?
Yeah, she really did help out more than I thought. Coming in, I didn't really if my RCA was of a different color than me, I wouldn't have been really that swayed away. But seeing that she was African American and was a woman, I felt like I could relate to her on a lot more levels, just because she was able to help me figure out the different places on campus that would most be applicable to me, and was able to suggest different places to find the black community and just the community in general. So it was really great.
How was that? I mean, so you went to some of the initial gatherings of various organizations, and was that great? You got invested in those or not? What happened?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So during orientation week, me and my other roommate, who's actually African American as well, we went to the BSU ice cream social thing, and it was cute. It was nice. A lot of black people were there. It was nice. A lot of freshmen were there as well. So it was nice that I saw that there was a community there if I needed one, but I didn't really click with anyone. in that community. Not as much as I clicked with like my Z group or other people that I just met in orientation in general. So I went to different events, but I kind of knew from the get-go that I don't know if I was going to identify the most with those organizations. It's very interesting. Just because the way that the campus was set up, the way that the freshmen, I don't know how this happened, but like up campus, there weren't really that many black people for freshman year. I feel like most people were down campus, just like, because I have a lot of African American friends now, just from like my eating club. And we always joke that like me and my other friend in my Z group Hill, we were like the up campus people, and everyone else was down campus. So they got really close because they were in Whitman and Wilson, and they were always like really close, the people of our year. And me and Hill really never got close with them just because it was just based on random like geography where we were placed. So it's always funny, but yeah, initially I wasn't really close with the black community in my grade.
And so that's your first year. So what did you end up investing your time sophomore, junior year?
So sophomore year, I invested my time in, I got really involved in, I started taking pictures for the prints, first off, because I thought that was really cool. And then I got involved in the Peer Health Advisors organization, which was really nice. I liked putting on different events for like surrounding around health on campus. And I like to be an advisor and like, talk with people. It was really nice. I got to meet a lot of different people that way. Those were pretty much my big two things sophomore year.
And then senior year, obviously, being an RCA.
Yeah.
Tell me about our spring training from last year. We did a big module on diversity. How was that? How did you respond to that training?
I liked it. It was really great. I felt like it could have been better.
Okay.
Just because it's really difficult, because I feel like diversity here is something that is so stressed, and it's one of the main reasons why I came here, because Princeton's really diverse, and coming here I expected diversity to be, or I expected the campus to be more diverse on a ground level. Like, the numbers are great. There's so many people from different states, different places in the world. You see all different colors on campus and different ethnicities, and it's really awesome. But I feel like everyone self-segregates sometimes, and also not everyone feels comfortable in different circles. So watching the doing the diversity training last spring, it kind of showed me that, because a lot of the videos, people were like, oh, I was looking for a community. I may have or may have not found that community. I don't really feel like I'm really meshing on campus and stuff like that. So it enlightened me on that I wasn't really alone in my perspective. But I feel like we can delve more into the nuances when it comes to diversity. Just in that a lot of people believe that Princeton is diverse and believes it's not a problem, whereas it really is.
So what is the problem? You talked about self-segregation. What else? Help me to understand what you mean by the ground level and the problems there.
Okay, yeah. So just speaking from personal experience, I feel like race, just being black on campus, I feel like race is a very subjective thing, right? So I feel like me being black, it's like I'm expected to have a certain group of friends, and I'm expected to have a certain set of beliefs, and I'm expected to act a certain way just because of my race, which is fine, which isn't bad, but
where does that come from? That pressure to the expectations? Is it amongst the student body? Is it from the administration? Where does that come from?
I think it comes from both.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, so a personal experience where I feel like this subjectivity of race is, so I was in a ethics and public policy class, and sometimes the topics would get really heated. We'd have debates and precept, and I remember one precept we were actually talking about education, and I feel like at times, being the only black person in the room, when we're talking about like urban city places or places which have a big black population, people have many different opinions, which I'm not going to hold it against them, but when it comes down to it, I feel like I'm the ambassador of my race, or I need to speak out. And even for my preceptor, it feels like, okay, so everyone's talking, like this person's from the Upper East Side, and this person's from like Wisconsin, this person's from California. Like obviously they have these opinions on education policy. When it comes to Harriet, she's the black person in the class. She's the only person in the class that's black, so she's going to bring in a different perspective. And it's fine because I know that I do have a different perspective because I am African American, and I know when it comes to race relations and immigration, I have different policy just because of my background. But I feel like sometimes it's not fair, just in the fact that, yes, I am black, but at times it's kind of like the only thing that people see when they look at me in certain aspects.
So we make these assumptions, or we impose these stereotypes that may not be there, right?
Yeah, that may not be there.
Yeah. So, are there any other examples you've faced that? I'm sure there's. Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any other examples that come to mind.
When it comes to race,
just the what you mentioned about how we often just assume that you're gonna be involved in these activities, or you're gonna have these opinions. You face that in that precept. Are there any other examples that come to mind?
Yeah, even just on a student level, just having a certain group of friends. I know a lot of people on campus, like not personally, because I have a diverse group of friends. Like I have white, black, Asian, like I'll just group of friends. But some people on campus, like I know, if you're African American and you don't really have African American friends, some people may look at you differently, or may just feel like you're not in their social circle, or if you didn't really make the connection freshman year with black people, when it comes to senior year, it's going to be really hard to kind of get out of your kind of comfort zone, or people won't allow you to make friends because they kind of think, oh, like your freshman year you kind of thought you were better than us, or you kind of just made like all white friends or all Asian friends, so like we kind of won't accept you. Not to say that the black community on campus is not accepting. Like it's really great. Like everyone's just trying to be friends. Everyone's awesome. It's just the little nuances where people treat people differently, just because of the decisions they made, or what activities they're in, or what eating club they're in, and stuff like that.
So as you looked at that issue, have you thought about solutions, or how to make it better for students, or give them more freedom, so they don't have to endure those types of stereotypes? I'm just curious because we do a lot of programming and this and that, and I'll step back. I'm like, gosh, I wonder how effective these really are. So, and what you're talking about is a really, it's a tough issue.
Yeah,
it's a tough.
It is really tough.
I don't know, I think about solutions. Have you thought about it, or what is it?
Yeah, no, I don't really know what a solution would be. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. All I know is that our current diversity training, or our current, just the current perception on campus of diversity is wrong, or it's not all of that it could be.
So, it's not. It needs to be expanded or more comprehensive.
Yeah, it needs to be more.
And so when you say diversity training, you're talking about obviously the RCA training that we've done, and then is that also orientation with reflections on diversity, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I feel like diversity is it's so important. Like during freshman orientation, even in training for me, like training for RCA, there was many different modules that we went through, and there were some things that were stressed more than other things. And during training, fall training for RCA training, we spent really little time on diversity. It was kind of added in the last 3 hours of training, where we spent a lot of time on sexual health and just mental health, and all really important issues, don't get me wrong, but I feel like diversity should be stressed more.
Okay.
Just because you face it in so many different arenas on campus, whether it's a professor interacting with you differently, a friend interacting with you differently, a group, there's just so many different ways that diversity can be, or just race relations, or just, not even, when I speak about diversity, it could even be like gender diversity. It's just like all these different things I feel like we can expand more and look more into because it really affects a person's experience on campus.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Okay. So that's great. So I'm immediately thinking about, wow, I mean, what would that training or that look like? Because one thing I've been thinking about more recently is that as much programming that we do in these modules where you're looking at a video or someone's giving a presentation, I wonder in the end that really to make change, it's mentoring. So like as I try to work with the RCAs I think, as you know, are really, I think of all the kind of university positions on campus, I think the RCAs have the most impact on students directly. Is that right? I mean, do you think it's really the RCAs and being mentors really trying to sensitize freshmen, and is that not the solution, but one of the main components to a solution?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the main components, I think. I think during freshman orientation also, something that could be great is just doing more on diversity or doing more on interactions with different races. Because most of the time, so sometimes people interact with me and say things, and I'm really sometimes people say the craziest stuff during precept or the craziest stuff in just day-to-day interactions, and I'm just like, how are you even saying this to me? Like, why would you think that was okay? But then I realized that, oh, maybe their upbringing was very sheltered, or maybe they don't know any better, or maybe they don't know really how to interact with the person of a different race. So I feel like people here are so smart and so intelligent, but when it comes to interactions with people outside of their comfort zone, or people that they haven't really interacted with, they think that they know how to react because they read some books on race relations, and they've read some articles in the New York Times about like, different happenings in the world. They think that they kind of know how to interact with different people, whereas if we do more education, or just like when they come in, kind of know, yes, Princeton is that diverse, and yes, there are a lot of different people, but just because there's this great number of different people from different backgrounds, different races, doesn't mean that everyone feels comfortable here. Because I feel like there's a disconnect between the numbers and the actual ground level comfort level. Because it's one thing for people to feel diverse, or like people to have the number like, oh, there's 20 in this classroom, there's 20 out of the 100 people that are Black or Asian. Or yes, of course, like being a minority for our whole lives, we've kind of been in the minority. So it's something that we've gotten used to, but maybe making us feel like we're part of the whole would be better, if that makes any sense.
Part of the whole. So how would that be done, or does that make sense? I see what you mean. I'm just I'm always how would you do that? Right.
I think just enlightening the incoming freshmen, or enlightening everyone about this problem. I think the first step is kind of just showing that there is that tension, or that there is a possibility for that. Because I feel like now it's very much so just, okay, we're diverse, that's great, awesome, Princeton's diverse class.
And is that the message that come across in Reflections on Diversity?
Oh, for sure.
Right, so it's like, hey, we're diverse, great.
Yeah, we're diverse.
But it's not, like you said, it's not getting down to that ground level where the tensions lie.
Yeah. I think it's really great because there's different, I think that would be very quintessential to a Princeton experience, because coming from last year, so there was this big thing on campus where it was like, I too am Princeton, right? And a lot of students were shocked by that. A lot of students didn't really understand where all these sentiments were coming from. A lot of them were just like blindsided by it and didn't really know that those problems existed on campus. But I feel like if we were to have some type of training or some type of education system where people were knowledgeable or acknowledged the different viewpoints or the different journeys that people have on this campus, that it would be so much better, and people would understand where other people are coming from. So the grievances wouldn't be a surprise, because you kind of understand and you kind of alleviate the stress on other students. And I think that's even great. It's a great tool for life in general, because when you go out into the world, not to sound cliche, but you meet so many different people from so many different countries, so many different backgrounds, that if you have that tool to kind of be sensitive or kind of be knowledgeable of, there is a different perspective on the situation, there is a different way to get to where I am, then you're gonna value where you are so much more, and you're going to value the other people in the situation.
So so you talk about sensitizing people. Is it enough initially to sensitize them by saying, look, you don't know everything, and you're going to meet a lot of different people, and so if we could accomplish the goal of getting people to pause and allow other people to kind of show their experiences and whatever, instead of imposing expectations or stereotypes on them. That'd be an admirable first step.
Yeah, that'd be a first step.
Right.
I feel like there's
just in contrast to doing that, and also kind of showing them all the different perspectives out there, because I think that the first one is doable, because it's an action on your part, where the other ones could be a data dump. That's my fear. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because then if I can get the first one, then you're more receptive to these other positions out there. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So
no, there's definitely. I think that's a great first step. Just showing, okay, you don't really know everything, or Princeton is diverse. We do have all these different students, but let's get down to everyone's different journeys, kind of thing. I think the data dump, it's definitely a balance, because you don't want to just be like, okay, there's these many people from Mongolia. Here's everything about Mongolia. So like when you encounter someone from Mongolia, this is how you're going to react. And there's also a balance with, just because you know all of the facts about where someone's coming from, you don't really know about them. I feel like so when it comes to race, it's really tricky, because it's the subjectivity about race is that when you have certain skin color, even you being white, like, people may assume your story or think many things about you just because of your skin color. It's not only like limited to minorities, it's to white people as well, like white privilege. Like, people have all there's these buzzwords when people talk about different races, whereas what I'm trying to say is that the beauty of diversity is that, yeah, we all have these different skin colors, and yeah, we may have very common stories just because of our skin color, but everyone has a different story. And people's race may not be the most salient part of their identity.
So let me ask you just kind of a wrap-up question. So I think what you're getting me to understand is there's maybe a better skill-based approach to diversity training, where you can't learn everyone's story immediately, but we can give you skills like maybe putting a pause on imposing stereotypes and expectations on people. Maybe just being a little sensitive in the sense that you allow other people to kind of tell you their stories, right? So it's more skill-based. You're learning these skills on how to interact with diverse people.
Yeah.
If that were the case, that we went that route, what else, in addition to just being a good listener, whatever, what else would be needed in that toolbox of skills and sensitivity training that you would want to see us do? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that kind of a convoluted question? I'm still trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty exciting. I think what you're saying is really great. I really, I like it. It gets me excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I know that, it's one thing to pause and listen to people, but it's another. There's more involved there. So what else is involved?
So I think that, this is a really loaded question. I think that
it's probably too long of a question.
I think that one of the
Let me ask it this way.
Skills.
Do you have it? So I'm thinking, all right, you are now part of orientation training. You are the head, and you're going to say, look, we're going to do diversity training different this year. We're going to try to make it where we really begin to teach freshmen how to interact with people from different experiences.
Yeah.
And so, what would you do? Or what you list the skills that we want them to learn, what would they be?
So maybe I think that the first one would be to desensitize or kind of take a step back from what you think about the person, what you've learned about the person, like the culture or in general. I think that not to assume things is good, because just assuming that because this person's from China, they have a certain skill set is not okay. I think that also, yeah, being a good listener would be great. Remembering, not just like having that first interaction, remember the next time.
See, I would have forgotten that, so that's great.
I think also, yeah, there's just so many different things. I have never really thought of a list of things, but it's a really interesting question. Because I think that also it's really important to not overemphasize a lot of things that people are saying. In that, like, for example, okay, so I'm from Uganda, or my parents are from Uganda, and I'm a first-generation American. Like, not to only see me as a first-generation American, or not to only see me as Ugandan, to see me as, yes, that's my background, and yes, that's my parents, that's a part of my parents' identity, but that's not everything about me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know? Because I feel like many things that are even happening currently, you go into a conversation with someone and you expect them to have a certain perspective on it just because of their skin color or just because of their background. And I think not overemphasizing that one part of their identity will help you a lot more in kind of understanding the world in general. Yeah, I think those are 5 things, but I don't know everything else yet. I'll get back to you on the rest.
No problem. So, well, we're running out of time,
okay.
And full disclosure, when we talked about doing this video, I actually brought you on to talk about a black student's perspective on campus. I thought that'd be really interesting, and I'm very thankful for where the conversation has gone.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, is there a question I haven't asked, or is there something you wanted to say that I haven't gotten to?
No. I think I just wanted to, because I feel like a lot of this interview has kind of been like where Princeton has gone wrong, and I don't want to leave it kind of just saying Princeton's bad, kind of giving that look on it, because I really do admire how diverse Princeton is, and I really do admire how they make an effort to try to make everyone feel comfortable, because there's so many different places on campus where people can find a different home or solace, or so Princeton's really great in that aspect. I feel like to make it even better.
Exactly.
These are the things.
No, you're showing your love for Princeton by
Yeah.
just advocating for us to continue to improve our state training, orientation, everything. So appreciate that.
Because I definitely love Princeton. Oh my goodness, I love it. I'm so thankful for it. It's such a blessing in my life. But I would love just for future generations of Princetonians to feel more at home, if there's any way to do that.
Well, I can tell you Princeton is so much better from you being here. So I really do thank you for your influence here on campus, your influence amongst your Z's and Mathey College, and for being with us here today.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure.